one common task CAS users have to perform is updating an existing CAS file with some new data. When you're dealing with a file update, you're going to be working with two CAS files. The first file being the CAS file that contains all of your data and all of your fields, and the second file being the file that contains just the updated information. So when you get an update file, whether it's from a servicer, or from another data source, you're going to want to import that data into a brand new CAS file and save it. And it's also helpful to keep in mind the number of records and fields you should have in each of those files. So in my primary CAS file, in this case the name of the file is CAS data file with all records and fields.cas. I see I have 1,834 records and 52 fields. In my update file called updatefile.cas, I have 1,995 records and 5 fields. Understanding and keeping aware of the number of records and fields in each file is going to be will make things much easier when you move forward. In order to perform a file update, I want to be in the CAS file that I want to update. In this case, this is the file with all of my data. I go to Reports and Programs, right-click, and select New, Object, File Update. Then right-click on the icon and go to Properties. In the File Update properties, I need to define the file key that I want to use to match up the data. Typically that's going to be loan ID. So I'll select loan ID in my current file, then browse to the file I would like to get my data from, which is updatefile.cas, and then I need to select the key in that file that I want to use to line up the data. And in this case I've named the key the same way in each file. They're both loan ID. Before I actually add any new fields or update existing fields or add new records, I recommend running a summary report. When you run a summary report, you get some very useful information about the two files you're working with. Here I can see the number of records in each file, the number of unique records, if I have any duplicates, and then the number of matching records. So here we can see we don't actually have a complete match. We're not finding a record in this file for every single occurrence in my main CAS file. So we're actually missing some updated information in my update file. In the field summary, we can see how many fields or columns exist in both files, and then how many columns match. If we had any mismatched data types, you would see the number of fields that are mismatched. So, mismatched data type would be, for instance, in one file I've saved paid through date, for instance, as a date, and in another file it was stored as a number or text. If a data type is mismatched, it will not be updated during this process. Here we get a list of all the matching fields, any mismatched data types, new fields, fields not found, any new records, and records not found. So here are the 8 records that are not included in my update file. I also recommend flagging the matching records that exist in this current file. This will allow me to report later on the records that were actually updated during this process. When I click Run, CAS will ask if it's okay to add this column called Match to the file. I'm just going to say OK. And if you wanted to take a look at that field just to see what it looks like, I can go to View and let's select Match, View Records, and you can see that Match is just a Boolean field. It's either a 1 or a 0. All the records that match get flagged with a 1. The records that do not match are left with a 0. So I can use this later to identify the records that I've updated. And as part of this exercise, all I really want to do is update existing fields, but note that you can also add new fields or add new records. So here I'll select Update Existing Fields, click Run, and here I want to highlight all of the fields I would like to update. So I'm updating 4 fields: rate, payment, current balance, and paid through date. When I click OK, I get a dialog box indicating that the fields were indeed updated. Click OK, and the file update is complete. I also recommend keeping an audit trail for yourself. So once you make any sort of major change to a CAS file, whether it's running calculations or running a file update, I always like to go to File, Save As, and save it as a new name. So maybe I'll call this CAS data file with all records and fields, and I may just tag it with the date at the end. And then click Save.